This video is a film study look at Lions rookie defensive end Ahmed Hassanein and his performance in the Lions' second preseason game of the 2025 season. In this case, their visit to Atlanta to take on the Falcons. I'll be using all 22 film that I believe falls under fair use doctrine, and I'm going to try to attempt to provide an in-depth educational breakdown for you of how Hassanein and others in the Lions' defensive front really dominated Atlanta's offense for much of the game that, of course, ended up being suspended in the fourth quarter. I think Kelvin Shepherd was a big part of what went on there in terms of the organization of the defense, putting guys in position to succeed, shut down Atlanta's run game, make them one-dimensional, and at times guys were able to get at the quarterback. Even though Hassanein didn't register a sack, I will show some pass rush moves here in this video. I think my commentary here and the annotations is transformative. It's certainly not broadcast film, and I think it takes the all-22 raw footage and creates a unique experience for the viewer rather than simply replaying the entire game or large portions of it. The all-22 film as a raw film ends up normally being around an hour in length. We've used 94 seconds of footage here. I think that's minimal in terms of the all 22 clips that are utilized, and I think that falls under fair use doctrine because I'm transforming the footage into my own original analysis of what I think happened on field in terms of the strategies and execution. As a result, I think this usage satisfies the purpose, nature, the amount, and definitely the market effect factors of fair use, because in no way, shape, or form does this inhibit or influence the NFL's ability to make money off this film. Let's get some of the film here started talking about Hassanein. First of all, he plays football the right way, in my opinion. 100% effort. We would say just zero ability to buy a ticket. Buying a ticket means you're standing around watching, and that's just not in his DNA, and it's certainly not the way that the Lions defensive staff, Kelvin Shepherd, or the head coach is going to coach him. This is a second quarter run play. It's a 1st and 10 run away from Hassanein. He's a little unconventional with some of the things he does. He gives ground here, and that's certainly not what you want to coach a defensive end to do on a run concept away from him. I think he's supposed to get into the B gap. So I think he's supposed to get into this gap here such that Stewart can maintain the outside gap. So as a result, when that gap moves, when the tackle moves in this case, Hassanein is trying to fight into that gap with him. Now, the crazy thing is, as unconventional as it is, because Stewart was there to close off the backside, and then Nowaski and Maddox on the front side really destroyed the point of attack, Hassanein actually still gets here. He's not credited with a tackle, but it's unconventional, like I said earlier. He's able to get to the football just after Nowaski and others bottle it up because he's got great pursuit, and he just doesn't understand the meaning of the word stop during the 7 seconds that it takes a football play to generally occur. If I was to have, I don't want to say a complaint or criticism of Hassanein so far as we've seen him, he's got to get better with his pass rush moves. You want to see him land strikes at the right time. He's not a guy with the longest arms. I think that some would say that makes your margin for error smaller because the left tackles, right tackles are generally going to have a larger wingspan than you, more length to be able to get to you first. I disagree. I think it's the effectiveness of your moves, and similar to MMA or boxing, it's more so about your timing, the location of your strikes. How do you set it up? Is he winning in pass rush moves right now? No, certainly he is not. But the Lions could use the depth here, and I'm glad to see him get a ton of reps in the preseason. When I say the depth, I mean behind Hutchinson, Davenport, and Barnes, who's a hybrid. I do think Muhammad's played extremely well in the preseason, and I'm real interested to see how he works out if he gets more snaps during the regular season. Next play that we'll talk about, this is a stunt, and the thing that I love about Hassanein is not just 100 miles an hour on run plays away from him or screens, which you'll see a great snap and a great tackle, great play that he makes later on in the game. I think it's in the third quarter. This is a stunt, and he goes 100 miles an hour here. He's totally committed to it. One thing I want to make note of on pretty much every play that I talk about this year is where the quarterbacks are looking, what they're trying to process. So I don't think it has anything to do with his stunt. Broderick Martin, who's illustrated in purple, and then Hassanein, like I said, is generally going to be in yellow. It's basically ET stunt, where the DN goes first, Hassanein, and then the tackle goes second, and it's Broderick Martin. And look, Hassanein ends up kind of folded over a little bit. I think it's just because I think it's an illustration of how committed he is. And no matter what they ask him to do, it's 100% going to run through a wall for Dan Campbell and Kelvin Shepherd. This one ends up being really nice coverage on the back end. It's Rock Ya-Sin, who at this point is a hybrid corner slash safety, and Avonte Maddox, who I briefly talked about on the previous play, a safety, that nickel DB, if you will, that came over from the Eagles, that I think is going to play a little bit bigger role this year than maybe some people suspect. The defense in this first half was just well connected. Everything was prepared extremely well. Granted, I understand Easton Stick is not a starting quarterback in the NFL, but Kelvin Shepherd pressed all the right buttons, in my opinion, in this game. Got guys in the right place. They made plays, especially early. I think 5 stops on the first 6 possessions. I do think Hassanein has incredible burst along with his effort. So that's the combination of those two things makes it kind of easy to have great pursuit because you're quick, because you have speed, and in the past you've made plays away from you. That gives you extra motivation or understanding. Okay, I can actually do these things that coach is talking about in a pursuit drill or just in a team meeting situation. Hassanein, however, I think takes pretty much everything he does to an extra level, a 6th gear, if you will. Here's an example of what I'm talking about. It's also an illustration of what Broderick Martin could bring to the front 6 or front 7 of this Lions defense. The running back's path is illuminated by the orange line. The tight end down there in purple is kind of double teaming the defensive end. I think it's Ukwu down to the bottom side in a 4-point stance. There is Hassanein's angle on this second quarter run play. Like I said, it's a 1st and 10. Broderick Martin, is really kicking ass, if you ask me, against this offensive guard who's trying to scoop him. But let's focus on Hassanein for a moment, and then we'll get back to Martin when we get to end zone angle. Hassanein's closed down. Perhaps the film is kind of staccato or jittery for you there when I reboot it like that. My apologies. But I just like to show how violent he is in this close down and what him and Broderick Martin were able to do to this play. Really create essentially a train wreck for the blocking scheme of the Falcons, and then the running back trying to bring this back. He's trying to bring it back because of Martin, because of Martin's hand placement, his dominance of this guard in the blocking scheme, and then in trying to bring it back, he basically runs right into another train in the form of Hassanein. It's a great example, if you ask me, of how you can win by an interior defensive tackle not necessarily making the play. You didn't need Broderick Martin there to make the play. Hassanein had it under control. It's a tremendous finish for him, an illustration of what he's capable of on run plays away from him because of his great pursuit and his athletic ability. Same play from the end zone angle again. Hassanein spot shadowed in yellow. Martin spot shadowed in blue in this case. There's the blocking scheme. The left tackle is going to work up to Nowaski, who I think is extremely underrated, to be honest with you. Nowaski can play outside linebacker. Here you see him lined up at inside linebacker. He's versatile, smart, perhaps not overly athletic, but he's not a bad athlete at all, in my opinion. The left guard on Broderick Martin, let's focus on that for a moment. He's trying to scoop him. So he's trying to basically work from the backside and beat Broderick Martin's head. In this case, he doesn't beat his head, nor does he beat his hands. Broderick Martin has totally won this rep by getting full extension on the guard. That because the tackle is working up to Nowaski here, clear path for Hassanein once the running back cuts it back. Great play. Sorry about that on the annotations. I'm using a new player. Obviously trying to use the graphics clearly related to the first part of my video. The little disclaimer that I read out. A great play by Hassanein and Broderick Martin. If you could get reps from those two guys, consistency, Broderick Martin and Hassanein, that would be a huge help for this defense. Maybe you put him on the field mostly in run situations, right? Especially in the case of Hassanein. I think his pass rush moves are the more limited aspect of his game at this point. But if you can get consistent reps out of these guys on a weekly basis, it'll be a huge asset in terms of helping the D end / D tackle rotation and keeping some of the guys ahead of them on the depth chart fresh. one of the plays that showed just a little bit of a different approach by Shepard this week compared to the Chargers, or maybe turning the volume up higher to get the desired result. This is a 7-man rush. Maybe it's a 6-man rush and then an add-on with someone, whoever's responsible for the running back, being a part of the blitz. Let's talk about the difference between Ukwu on our left-hand side. He's just got an occupy rush, so he's just going to occupy the right tackle, while Hassanein is actually trying to win. It's a second quarter play. It's a 3rd and 7. I just called it chaos. I didn't think this was effective last week against the Chargers, meaning the standing up nature of this is somewhat new. Aaron Glenn didn't have guys doing that much last year, but you can see how many guys are blitzing. It looks like to me probably Nowaski is responsible for the running back, and since the running back is staying in to block, for good reason, right? Because you got so many guys coming here. Ukwu is occupying the right tackle here. Hassanein is actually trying to win, and just a little bit of a mistime movement there. A chop with his outside arm, his right arm, I think. His left arm isn't able to clear. He's trying moves that he's practicing, and he's being taught how to do them properly, and he knows how to do them properly. This is just timing, and that's what I'm talking about with, whether you have short arms, long arms, or whatever. Does it help to have longer arms? Yeah, sure, it does. Absolutely. There's been short arms guys make the Hall of Fame as pass rushers. James Harrison was one of them. Hassanein, not exactly built like him, a little bit taller. I do want to say that this is great timing and a great illustration that Rock Ya-Sin, like I said, playing that hybrid corner safety role, recognizes it's a 6-man rush or maybe a 7. And as a result, the ball's got to come out quick on a 3rd and 7. Everything was extremely well coordinated. Everything was put together nicely by this defense. I'm going to skip this play. And had a reason for trying to execute things the way that they did. This is late second quarter. I believe this is going to be a completed pass up the left sideline from Easton Stick to the wide receiver who was going against Boodle. Hassanein going to run a pass rush from the left-hand side. Additional to that, this is the same 6-man rush that they used against the Chargers. I thought was unsuccessful. I had it twice in charting. And so basically what they're trying to do is they're trying to get a 2-on-1 with Nowaski and Turner crossing over. But it happens a little bit too late, and it's happened late pretty much every inside linebacker that's been out there to run this in the last 2 weeks. And I wonder if, that's why on the previous play they just brought a 7-man rush and said, okay, we're going to add on here and make sure that the quarterback's got to get rid of the ball. Turner ends up being late. Let's focus on Hassanein for a moment. Trying to rip underneath. You can see he's really giving it away here, trying to get that rip done. He'll get better. Don't get me wrong. He'll get quicker, and he'll run that move a little bit later, and maybe even give a little bit of a threat in between these steps here, that it's going to be a bull rush. A bull to speed, power to speed, or speed to power being the opposite. Like I said, it ends up being a completed pass down the left sideline, even though it's a 6-man rush. Turner's just too late, and this has happened consistently in the last 2 weeks, in my opinion, since we've seen it. I know we don't have starters on the field. As an aside, I do want to go over who I think the backups are for various positions. I think Nowaski is essentially Barnes' backup because Nowaski can do so many things, because he can play inside linebacker, he can play outside linebacker, he can basically move around. He plays pretty well against the pass when he's got his eyes on his man, that is, and a good defender against the run, as you see, as an inside linebacker and also as an OLB. I have that stunt, the one that I just showed you, or that blitz, I should say. I have that one as 0 for 3 in my tracking, meaning that it hasn't been successful in getting to the quarterback because the inside linebacker who's looping is just too late. So I don't know if maybe you remember one that was successful or not. It's one of the few complaints I would have about the way the Lions played defense in the first half and pretty much for most of the game down in Atlanta last Friday night. I will tell you, from a DN standpoint, focusing on Hassanein, I was one of those guys that wanted them to draft a defensive end earlier, or bring back Zadarius Smith, or sign another vet as an insurance option at minimum, right? But to me, right now, if you can hold Davenport where he is, pristine, available to play, the vision looks clear to me. With that caveat, right? We haven't seen Davenport hold up game after game for multiple weeks. If you get to week 6 or week 8, and Davenport's still around, playing well. He does have a great bull rush. Barnes is playing the way that we know he's capable of. You're getting the superstar production from Aiden Hutchinson that we expect, and Muhammad and Hassanein can be involved in the rotation, then I do like the group, to be honest with you. Even though, as I said, I'm one of those people that wanted them to do a little bit more in terms of acquiring talent at the D end or edge position. I actually got this play a little bit wrong in my reaction video late Friday night. Of course, I delayed my reaction video because I wanted to see what was going to happen with Maurice Norris. I had Hassanein on the opposite side of the field and tracking the screen down from the far side of the field, and that's not what happened. He's actually to the play call here. It's a screen. It's a quick screen to twins because the Falcons are trying to get numbers, basically 2-on-2 in space. If they get it out there quickly, then they do have numbers. But the pursuit, the turnaround of Hassanein is incredible, if you ask me. It does end up being like a 6 or 7 yard gain. I think it's 7. Excuse me. Another point to mention here: it seems like NFL quarterbacks are increasingly recognizing these nickel blitzes off the edge and hitting, whatever the now screen call is call for them, whatever the check is. It seems like those are happening really quickly, trying to get numbers to the field and get consistent gains. So from a Falcons perspective, this is really probably considered, a success, right? It's a 7 yard gain. We're focusing on Hassanein and what he brings to the table. He's got incredible pursuit. He's like a madman out there, if you ask me. He's right here off the left side. And again, I want to try to focus on the quarterback's eyes where they're looking pre-snap. Often, I have really no idea what they're saying sometimes, obviously. But in this case, it looks to me like he's definitely eyeing the nickel, maybe confirming that he thinks he's getting a blitz there. Here's Hassanein going to be let go by the right guard, right tackle. Maddox isn't slow. It's not like Hassanein is faster than Maddox, the nickel blitzer. Maddox actually tries to tip the pass. Hassanein immediately puts the brakes on. Everything's kind of blurry. Hassanein's right here. And then he's able to get into second or third gear quickly and play completely full speed as soon as he turns the corner. That's a rare trait, if you ask me. It's one of the things I love about him. It's easy to talk about effort and pursuit, but to me, he's on a different level. You're more than welcome to agree or disagree in the comment section. Everyone on the Lions team gives incredible effort. Everyone's sold out. But Hassanein, to me, if everyone else is at 100%, Hassanein's at like 102, sometimes 112. Last play that I'll show you here, pass rush opportunity. Hassanein in yellow again. Lynn over off our left side in blue. Slight differential maybe in their alignment, but they're both quite wide. Lynn does get there quicker. It's a bull rush by Hassanein that I think is quite effective. So let's let that run through a couple of times, and you can see just the rush before you see how the rest of the play turns out. So what we're talking about is over here, Hassanein attacking the right tackle and just absolutely walking him back to the quarterback. If the slow motion play forward or slow motion backwards is too wonky for you or skips a little bit, my apologies for that. This is about the best I can do as far as a player that is affordable for me, number one, that allows me to store the film. Over on the opposite side, you've got an absolute win for Lynn, who damn near forces a fumble on Emory Jones. So we'll take a look at Lynn and what he's doing, just hand fighting on the run, on the move. Maybe the pad level for Lynn isn't perfect, but it's this little reset with his feet right here that he does that kind of reorients him back on the quarterback's path. I know they're not going against starting level tackles in the NFL, but I thought those two guys, great rep for both of those two guys. The bull rush from Hassanein, effective, probably his most effective pass rush that I've seen in the last 2 weeks. And then Lynn just keeps making plays. I think Hassanein's got to get better with his pass rush moves and land strikes at the right time. If he wants to get on the field more often, I think his margin for error, like I said, is some would say it's probably smaller, but for me, it's more about timing and location, how it's set up. Some guys like to win with speed to the outside first, and then that sets up their speed to power or their bull rush. To me, Hassanein might be the opposite. He might be a bull rush guy who's got to go inside some and then eventually win to the top side. I think those top side rushes are going to be the biggest challenge for him against high level offensive linemen. Clearly, Lynn had the impact play, right? He's really surging. I really thought he played well as a rookie last year, in last year's preseason opening, and then he was out for the year, if I recall correctly, just after that game. Really nice pair of young pieces as defensive ends, if you ask me. Somewhat similar uphill climb. I know Lynn was a UDFA and is from William and Mary, so a smaller school, whereas Hassanein, yeah, I mean, Boise State isn't Alabama. It's not Georgia. It's not UCLA, but Boise State's a storied Division I program, and Hassanein was a badass player the last 2 years. I think 24 sacks or maybe 23 and a half his last 2 seasons combined. This was a fun film for me to produce. I hope you enjoyed it. Forgive the disclaimer at the beginning. It's necessary to do those things at this point in order to lay the foundation for a possible defense later once YouTube content ID system tries to mark up some of our videos and remove all ability to monetize. So I believe I transformed the nature of the All 22 film here with the annotations and my own unique breakdown of Hassanein, Lynn, Broderick Martin, Nowaski, and others. I think they played really well against the Falcons. That was quite obvious. They dominated their offensive line for large stretches. In all, I was impressed with the way those guys played. Obviously, before the game was suspended, looking for improvements from Hassanein, Lynn, and others this week coming up in the preseason to see how far they can push this before the regular season begins. I think Hassanein's got a unique ability, and that's his motor, his effort, his pursuit. What I learned years ago was that the average football play lasts around 7 seconds. It may be a little bit different. If you feel free to search that up if you want to, but that's what we taught our kids, was that the average football play lasts 7 seconds, and you have to have the mentality to give complete energy, effort, and just insane or maniacal pursuit for 7 seconds. And if all 11 of us do that at the same time, no one wants to deal with that type of group of men at the same time. And Hassanein, if you ask me, puts all of that into perfect display on every single snap that you watch. And it's one of the fun things about producing this video and just watching film of him during this preseason. I appreciate you guys' time. If you enjoyed the video, please let me know in the comments section, number one. And number two, if you think other Lions fans would enjoy this film study look at Hassanein, Lynn, Broderick Martin, and others, then please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach.